Welcome, bienvenue. Welcome to the latest episode of Cladding Matters, our weekly discussion show where we don't just talk about cladding. No, we talk about building safety, the ramifications of law changes, the pressure that can come from people and residents of these locations, such as Steve Day, to make sure that people actually do something and make sure that organizations like the BSR actually bare their teeth and do something about it, something that some people might state they've been loath to do. Anyway, before we get into that, Hamish McClay, would you start us off?
Right. Well, good afternoon to you all. Bright, sunny day as ever, and this is going to continue. We have interesting things going on around us here. Formula One is just 50 miles down the road from us this weekend, so that should be fascinating fun. So I'm staying off the roads.
Oh, just as well. Go
on. So we speak today about the building safety regulator in part, and also cladding. Surprise, surprise, the topic of conversation. Just before we drop into that, I perhaps ought to say there does not seem to be any change in the Greenwich Council's suggestion that there were no challenges with regulations at the time of the build of Royal Artillery coups. But anyway, back to the building safety regulator. There always seems to be something about regulation that seems to confuse the issue. And I love this aspect of this somebody is meant to be independent of. And I thought the building safety regulator was an independent organization, in part at least, but it seems to be dragged under and contained within the same sort of narrative. Let's try and sort of minimize what we have to do and sort of equate that against sort of risk. And I mean, part of what the regulators sort of saying, it's impossible to remove every conceivable sort of combustible item, which, I mean, that is understandable. That is understandable. But common sense, that very, very thing, which is remarkably uncommon, doesn't seem to be applied either to PAS 9980, never was. People are always trying to underprotect the residents and overprotect the sort of people responsible for building such atrocities. Because we all know that a lot of this is caused because corners were cut at the time of building. That is the major contribution to a lot of this. It was because, and it could well be that, we need to cut back on costs, but we needed to look at the safety of these issues before we cut back on the cost. Now, what can we take out and what can't we take out? I mean, basically, if protection is meant to be connected in order to prevent the fire spreading, if we're meant to use something like metal to attach certain pieces, and instead we use plastic, do we still use the plastic on? I mean, the thing is, what we have to remember is that we have to get the balance right. But Steve is the one that sort of knows some of the detail here. But I, for the life of me, cannot understand why people just cannot apply some common sense and have a conversation about the whole thing, including those people who refuse to actually get in touch with us to discuss what we are speaking about on a week-to-week basis. Nobody's offered any suggestion to say why we are wrong in what we are saying.
No, it seems like the only method of defense they've had is to attack Steve usually. But Steve, I believe you've got information that you want to share.
Well, I mean, as we're talking about the building safety regulator, I've sent a couple of images to you, Gareth. I don't know.
I'm just loading them up at the moment, but carry talking about them, and I'll bring them on.
Well, first, and then when you're ready with that, we can go to it. But I mean, so Greenwich, we asked the chief executive last week, Debbie Warren, if she still stood by the council's position denying the existence of all evidence of unlawful construction, despite the infamous Inside Housing article and Stephanie Barwise's input and multiple others condemning them. And, you know, we've even had the chief executive saying that not only, acknowledging the issue still going, but she says explicitly in writing that she stands by the council's decision, as communicated many times, as if I can't accept the position. Well, I mean, she's correct on that. I can't accept it, but it doesn't really mean anything. And just to summarize, we have gone through the official council complaints procedure for an untrue statement to be removed, affecting 1,000 lives. Then the ombudsman, no chance. They're not interested because they don't particularly want to look into whether the complaint was investigated. They just want to know if they looked like they'd followed their procedure. Well, they didn't. They didn't look into where the evidence was and why they thought it didn't exist. But we exhausted all the possible complaints procedures. And what's very interesting, I was in the House of Lords this week. I'm talking to a couple of peers about it. And there's a new duty of candour law coming out. And you'll see, I think it's Lord Bew, he may have tabled the questions now, but 2 parliamentary questions saying, should that law be amended to force local authorities to correct blatantly untrue positions? And hopefully that'll put the minister. It'll be very interesting. We'll pick out a video for it, because or if it's a written question, a written answer, and we'll show it on Cladding Matters. Because what will the minister say? Oh no, they shouldn't correct the untrue positions that put 1,000 lives at risk. Oh no, they should maintain the lies. And you think I'm sounding mad? No, it's not me. It's mad. It's the position that they're trying to maintain.
Well, I've got loaded up now. Shall we talk about them?
So interestingly, in Inside Housing, oh no, I think that's our one, Gareth. That's
good Lord.
That was a good one to share, though, because that was actually our Inside Housing. It was right on the front page where the Greenwich Council got a good bashing for their blatant.
I'm going to unload that one. I do apologise, but do carry on telling us more about it.
So this Hillsborough law, this duty of candour law, is coming out, and we would like to amend it to make sure that local authorities feel the full force of the law if they lie and they maintain a lie. And the issue we have in public life now is that no one trusts the politicians, no one trusts the local authorities, because they're all liars. Well, maybe not all of them, but many of them.
That was the one you were pointing to. Do you want to make a point about that at all?
Well, I was just going to say that that it was on the front page of Inside Housing, and that's our article about Royal Artillery Quays, and it's great that it's basically saying the MP and Stephanie Barwise raised concerns, because of course our MP did actually write to the council and is still meant to be setting up a meeting between me and the council. But can you imagine if I sit on a screen and say, oh yes, please, councillor, could you explain why all the following pieces of evidence doesn't exist? Can you imagine?
It doesn't bear imagining, actually.
Well, it would be nice to watch, but I don't think they'll be wanting that to happen. Although the aid of the official working with Abina, our MP, said they're going to get back to me on the meeting. Well, I can tell you one thing: they will not be wanting that meeting. So it'll be interesting what excuse they give, which of course we'll share on Cladding Matters. We're always open to share the latest level of depravity.
Oh, we guess.
Right. Well, I'm struggling to share it one way. I'm going to load it up a different way. I always have a backup plan. Right. So let's get that first one up. So the first image is this.
Yes. So this is on the 23rd of June, and this is Inside Housing's article. And the BSR, of course, is the building safety regulator for your viewers, and the building safety regulator was set up for high-risk buildings above 18 meters, so very tall ones like Royal Artillery Quays, above 7 stories, to basically manage the remediation and also build and control for buildings going forward for these larger, taller buildings. Now, well, they have been taken over by the London Fire Brigade. The top guy is Andy Rowe, who's the previous London Fire Brigade Commissioner. And he's wanting to speed everything up at the building safety regulator, and that can only one thing: less cladding being removed. And I think we're starting to see that now. So Inside Housing reports, they're saying difficult decisions about removing combustible cladding on buildings because it's not always possible. And let's have a look at the other one, Gareth.
Okay.
And we'll see one of the issues there is pigeons. Oh, yes, we can't get rid of the cladding. So let's have a look in context before we jump to the pigeons, but you can see the pigeons are definitely there. So he says, in some cases, head of external remediation at the building safety team have had to make some difficult decisions of how to proceed. So, for example, it may be that it's actually not possible, not feasible to remove all the combustible materials. So if that's the case, the question is how much can stay, and if it is to stay, what mitigations are there to put in place? The other thing that we're really wary of is that we can make things worse, and here we go, brace yourself. So if you can get things wrong with your new external wall system, then you can end up with damp and mold, and in some cases we've seen you could end up with a persistent pigeon problem if you allow nesting areas, so they can't take off the flammable, dangerous cladding, because you might introduce pigeons, unwanted pigeons. We can't have the pigeons.
Hang on.
Stuff must stay in the buildings.
I like to square things. So in my mind, on my one hand, I've got a pigeon problem, and on my right hand, I've got certain death. I'm just wondering, where does it lie? I'm obviously pigeons.
Also, you can see what's happening. They're setting up the picture for more watering down of paths, aren't they? They're saying, well, can't really take a lot off. Can't take it all off. I mean, imagine introducing pigeons on every floor. That we can't leave it. You got to leave it on, all the flammable stuff. And old Colin Todd and co over at Paz will be like, oh, well, we have a solution for that. We need to take a further proportionate approach, take into account pigeons.
Oh my goodness! I'm sure that sweet Colony Toddy is probably dancing in the streets now.
Well, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it was just something I'm not really ready for. I mean, I'm surprised by the pigeons. I mean, pigeons are a problem, and would the residents of Grenfell, would they prefer to have a pigeon-free?
I think that's what they should have been. They should have been polled as to whether or not they would have preferred pigeons or death. Yeah,
and that's basically where we are. They're now looking for reasons to leave the cladding on, and I think, there should be no no sort of argument about removing, especially the XPS panels at Royal Artillery Quays. There should be no real argument here. It should all come off. But you can see the remediation plans of the government, and it's about to come in, by the way, the remediation bill. It's about to come in, and this is where they want to make it illegal to use the standard other and PAS to get your remediation done. Well, if PAS is going to be extended to take into account pigeons, you can really see where this new law is going to go. Anyway, it needs a good challenge, and that's what we're going to be doing. But yeah, I mean, what's your reaction, both of you? I mean, pigeons, this is where we've got to.
I'm dumbfounded. Of all the excuses in the world, I didn't.
Well, I'm not so sure. When I view it out of my office here, for whatever reason, well, it is actually. I know there's some neighbours sort of put bird feed out, and the pigeons, they gang up there, and there's sometimes 10 or 12 pigeons. Now, we can't eradicate them if you're going to save lives. Good heavens! Why would one want to stop the pigeons sort of nesting or what appearing? So it is a bit of an absurd situation that any excuse can be actually used to really sort of reduce the requirements of a certain standard. At the moment, we've got an appalling standard anyway, but it's not a standard as such, although people assume that it is. But they actually use that almost as an excuse to, and this is one of the sad things about Royal Artillery Quays as well. Apart from the PAS standard itself, when you add in the fact that the council denying there's anything else wrong. Never mind the PAS aspect of it. It really is an idiotic sort of scenario that whilst they're doing the work, they could be doing other things. I mean, there are plenty of spaces in the building for Coke cans. I mean, it's all right if the Coke cans are staying there. Because we've noticed this in the compartment walls. Various sort of Coke cans have been found, haven't they? I'm not so sure. Now, have we come across pigeon nests so far? Or does it suggest that they might arrive as a consequence of
Well, I
the
think that's
new
what
improved cladding?
Yeah, they are basically saying that, as a consequence of removing the cladding, it would make a pigeon problem worse. But, the reason the cladding is being removed is it's seen as dangerous, and it's a threat to life. It's not something you should be using as a reason not to take, if you're going to use a fire engineering reason, we might not like it, but at least a fire engineer is putting their neck on the line to say it's proportionate. This is something else. You don't want to upset the pigeons.
Well, I'm worried that they're going to extend it out to sparrows and perhaps even robins. You have another thing.
Well, so they go on. So Mr. Cower says that the building safety confirmed to him at least 80% of remediation applications to the BSR for partial remediations. Well, we've been banging about partial remediations for a very long time. And interestingly, guess what the culprit is? Old Colin Todd's PAS 9980 2022 methodology. So he says in these cases, there's a risk-based management approach to how much remediation work takes place. She added, this is entirely for applicants and client developers to work out, usually based on, brace yourself, PAS 9980. The BSR certainly within building control does not dictate what level of remediation is to be done. We simply assess the proposals and keep our hands off. We did not have anything to do with the stuff laying left on the building, all that flammable stuff.
Nothing to see here.
We're just the building safety regulator. And then she goes, in terms of building control, we assess everything from all the burning stuff coming off. What on earth? Burning stuff. I missed that. Coming off what a terrible use of word. It's a very light touch remediation, and we just have to make sure that this is compliant with building regulations at the end. So in terms of we assess everything from all the burning stuff coming off. Well, there you go. From the building safety regulations, they've upped the stakes. They're calling it all the burning stuff. Well, if you got
maybe that should be called the burning safety regulator.
Yeah, well, very good, Gareth.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think we've got a new name. Wow. Anyway,
I never thought stuff was a particularly scientific measure here, but apparently I was wrong.
Presumably it implies that it's so bad that as they're taking it off, the building safety regulator thinks it's burning at the time they're taking it off. Fire. I mean, what are they doing? They've got a lead suit on as they take off the stuff.
Spontaneous combusting materials. That's what we got.
But yeah, well, the last bit on that image, Gareth, she says it's obviously, acknowledged that partial remediations. Remember, there's 80% of the remediations are partial.
Yes.
To the building are trickier to assess, obviously. If all the combustible materials come off the building, it's easier to approve it. So basically, this is sinister. This is a link to say that obviously, if you're going to leave stuff on, it's going to delay everything. So if you can now say that, well, you don't have to take it off, not because you're going to have an argument about it. You just don't have to take it off because of the pigeons or because PAS says, you can leave it on if there's not a proportionate way of fixing it.
Let's the pigeons catch fire, shall we?
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've learned a lot. I mean, and to use the word, all the burning stuff coming off, I mean, that is a terrible choice of words. It means it's a light at the time now. I mean, it's all a light. It's like rack is a light. We should take off some of the burning embers that are.
I don't know. Maybe if people started referring to rack as that place with all the burning stuff, things might move forward more quickly.
It does they think it's permanently burning because it's that bad. I mean, I don't understand that. And so, in the same way, of all the burning stuff that they want to take on, they're saying, well, they can't take all the burning stuff off because of the pigeons. I think we get to a new level today.
Absolutely. Hamish, would you care to take us home?
Well, it's frightened my pigeons away. I can't see any of them now. We have to be careful with our talk. Not so much with the radiation. We don't need to. It might be a bit tricky to make decisions, but obviously decisions are being made contrary to the safety of the people that live in the buildings. And I think this is a sad aspect, and we can actually put some joking sort of to it. There are serious arguments that keep coming out. Well, what are the chances of it catching fire? Well, one doesn't know. But if you actually leave combustible materials on, if it does catch fire, there's a greater chance of it happening. And we have, I think it was last week, Steve pointed out, we're beginning to see more and more incidents of people using materials, recharging sort of various machinery, particularly the masses of stuff that's manufactured in China, coming across out without sort of proper control. They don't have big British standard stamped upon them any longer. And I think we can see there are bound to be more consequential fires as a result of these items failing.
So
and
Steve
therefore,
was referring to lithium-ion fires, particularly from batteries from things like scooters and e-bikes and so on, which are proliferating at the moment. As you say, Hamish, a lot of these come across without any of the BSR standard of any kind. There's no kite mark on them. There's no way to indicate that they passed minimum safety standards, and some of them do and have done quite famously caught fire. Where will it end? Today's Cladding Matters seems to have been brought to you by pigeons. Who knew? Thank you so much, Steve Day from buildingsafetyscheme.org. Please, if you haven't yet checked it, please go to buildingsafetyscheme.org. He needs your support in every way you can think of. Hamish McClay of Search Convey, our sponsor, and also the person who helped set this up in the first place. And to all of you watching, your continued support and viewership ensures that more people understand this needs to be dealt with, not simply brushed under the aforementioned carpet. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars. In these ridiculous times, please look after your mental health. Bye-bye now.